Okay, and welcome back to another quick and dirty synthesizer tips with your beloved Padre, Father Moo. That's me. Okay, let's dive right into it. So again, we're putting together real simple, real universal patches that can be used on this synth, which is a Nord Micro Modular. It can also be used on standard Eurorack, on VCV rack, on Reactor, on any modular system you have. You're going to have the right modules, but we're designing with pretty generic modules in mind, so this should be tips and tricks that everybody can use. So let's look at our setup that we got today. We got the old clock generator on the left here at 100 BPM. That's pretty standard. We got an oscillator making a sawtooth wave. It's going into a standard sort of low-pass filter. The filter has a little LFO on the filter frequency just for variation. Then it goes into a two-stage envelope and hits the mixer and hits your ears. So down here, we've got a 16-step note sequencer with a quantizer. We got a second 16-step note sequencer with a quantizer. And we got a couple other modules here. So today's trick, and I will say, I never used this trick before starting this stream. I only came up with it in the course of last year, I guess, while trying to put something together. And I liked it so much that I made multiple patches with the same sort of concept that you're seeing in the bottom left section here. So all it really is here we have a sequence, here we have a sequence, and here we have a system for automatically shifting between them. So you could call those like a verse and a chorus pattern, for example. Just to make things a little bit more noticeable to your ears, for this quantizer, I've tuned in a minor scale, a C minor. Well, this note shouldn't be here, but it is a C minor scale. And over here, as you can see, all the white notes on the keyboard is a C major scale. So although these are both pretty much just random sequences of notes, at least they are quantized to a key. So when we switch from one to the other, you should be able to hear it. Well, right now, this quantizer output is feeding into what's called an X-fade mixer, a cross-fading mixer. This is kind of like a DJ mixer. And we've got the fader all the way to the left here on number 1. So let's just hear what sequence number 1 sounds like. Okay, so that was the minor sequence. Now let's grab, this would be the fader on the DJ console, but it's a knob here. Go all the way to the other direction. We should hear the other sequence coming through on channel 2 here. Okay, that was definitely a C major sequence of random notes. So I don't really currently have a way to sequence this according to a particular time, but instead I'm just using a square wave LFO to switch between the first and the second sequence basically at a random time. So it may happen in the middle of a bar, in fact. Now, when I set the panner all the way to the left, that means it's going to start with that one. And so basically, when this green light is off, we're going to be on sequence 1, I think. And when the green light is on, we should flip to sequence 2. What we won't do is mix those two sequences in varying amounts, because that's not what we're trying to do. We would get crazy notes from all over the scale, and it wouldn't sound very palatable. But what we should get with the current settings is just switching from, again, the minor sequence to the major sequence and back again. And the LFO is set pretty slow, so you should probably get a couple bars of each one before you hear the switch. But again, the switch may happen at any time. It's not going to necessarily happen on the one. So let's listen to that now. Sounds like number 2. Oh, it just switched? That's sequence 2 for sure. You can see the green light. It's off, so we're back to minor. Switched again to major. Okay, so this little automatic sequencer switcher I think is quite useful if you're building generative patches and you don't want them to just have one pattern all the time. You can choose to switch between sources. You could make these a lot more complex than just 16 steps, which are a little bit boring. You could have 2 completely generative, semi-random sequences playing different notes with the same root. Like you could have C, E, G here, and you could have C, D, A over there. And then when you switch between them, you'll still get more variation in your little ambient pattern. I should just mention one more thing quickly before we end. I decided to use this gate clock out because it sends a pulse every beat to open the envelope. So I guess I could have done the exact same thing over here and it would sound identical. It doesn't matter which one of these 16 steps is opening the envelope because they're both just 16, 16 over 16. They're just a constant stream. But yeah, you could also set up multiple gate outputs and then use a crossfader to fade between those at the same time to get even more variation in your patterns. So consider using a crossfader, and if you want a square wave LFO, this could also be, you could do that manually by grabbing the knob. It could be your performance setup where you fade between different sequences in real time. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So just a simple little trick, but one that I learned from programming these streams that I came up with here and now find myself using all the time. So it's been useful for me. Hope it'll be useful for you as well. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back with another stream very soon. Cheers.